Okay, I'm over at the sewing machine for step 2. I have my 2 fashion fabric pieces pinned together along the nose curve, and I have my 2 lining pieces pinned together along the nose curve. I'm gonna start stitching. I'm gonna stitch at the beginning of my fabric, back stitch, and then stitch the end of my fabric, following along that stitching line. So I put my presser foot down, go forward, back stitch for about 1/2 inch, which is coincidentally where your stitching line is about to start, so that's a good point of reference for you. And I am stitching, following my line. I stitch the end of my fabric and then I back stitch. Voila! Cut my threads. 2 connected nose pieces. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch my lining, and it is just exactly the same thing, where I'm going to start at the beginning of my seam allowance, or at the beginning of my fabric, stitch along that stitching line, taking out my pins as I go, and following that curve. Next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take my fabric shears again. I'm gonna trim down this seam allowance to about 1/8 of an inch because you don't want a whole bunch of bulky fabric right on top of your nose. I'm gonna do that with both my fashion fabric and my lining. And then I will go over to the iron, press my fabric, or my nose curve, open it up, and we'll be ready to start the elastic. So I'll see you in a few minutes for step 3.